So let's begin. I believe you can hear me all. So I've
Yes.
seen this is tip number one. Carousel does not need to have those dots. So I've seen a couple of designs from students and the rest of them, and you're tempted mostly, if it's not on boarding screen, you're tempted mostly to do designs like this, do carousels like this, especially when it has to do with different sections, if you know what I mean. So instead of putting it like this is the best way you should actually make your designs look. You should use a tab, clearly states what is on each carousel. So I already know what I'm going to do in the next, what I'm going to do if I come to this other tab. Unlike this one, that I just have dots, dots, dots. So me going, what if they put a picture that I cannot recognize? So this is tip number one. If you want to design a carousel, it's advisable most times that you clearly state what should be on each carousel. Now, this is not for onboarding screens, you know. So if you're doing onboarding screens, you really, yes, for sure, onboarding screen does not just have image. You should have your header text and the other text that is following suit. That means you are selling what these people are supposed to experience when they want to use the app. So you are selling that. So if you're doing any carousel that is not card again, so if it's card, you know that a card has the product and short description of the product and an action button. So if it's not card and you just want to display pictures like this, do not for any reason just use dots to show that this is another slide. So the number two tips we'll talk about here is using buttons like OK. So I've seen couple of designs from students, even from KodeCamp here, where you want to put your next button and you say next. So instead of next, you can use actions like this, create account, or you can use actions like I am thinking of the right word to use now. Like your button should tell them exactly what is going to happen. So if it's create account, yes, it's create account. If it's login, it's yes, it's login. If it's sign up, it's sign up. If it's next screen or next page, next this, next that, instead of just keeping next and okay. If you notice, most of these apps that we use these days, they don't include just next. They make you know what you're going to do next. So as a UI UX designer, it's also very important that you should be a good copywriter. A good copywriter. Now, you learning copy. There are books we can read. Yes, there are books you can read. Now, similarly, you're saying something like it's more UX writing than UI design, but you need to implement it also. So if you know that if you're not working in a big organization, if you're sincere with us, if you're not working in a very big organization, so you have to do everything, including the copy, the UX itself, and all of that. No, good that it's not applicable to onboarding screens because I already explained for onboarding screens you have copies that are already backing it up. Yes, you need to know everything, especially if you're a product designer. You need to know everything, including copies. Now, even if you're not a good writer, there's something I do. If I know that I can't think of good copies. To be sincere, I cannot really think of good copies to use. So what I do is I have friends that are content creators. So, and even if you don't have friends, you can use Google to like, what is the best, what can I add to next, and the rest of them. Your friends will help you, would even help you to bring copies. Like when I'm designing, I just meet my friend as a content creator and I tell her, okay, see, this is the text I want to use. What do you feel? What do you think about this? I'll first of all explain to her that I'm talking to users that general users. So your designs or your work should be something that everybody can use. So I'm going to let her know that okay, this is for everybody, for the skilled, the unskilled, the educated, the non-educated. So I'll tell them all this for her to be able to give me copies that can work for every party. So this for this Then tip number 3, I've seen people do this very well, where you have 2 buttons that are dragging for attention at the same time. You have cancel, you have okay. Which should I click first as a user? I don't know. This is actually a very bad way of designing. So for you to make it better, it's either you should use your for deletes. We know that we have a color for deletes. Anything error, it's red. So if it's something like that, you can use red. Then your other button should be like something that is not active. You can make it an inactive button. So since this is delete, it can be done like this. Instead of making the 2 alike, I don't know which one I need to click on first and the one I don't need to. So the next tip number 4. Now, what do you think is wrong with this particular design? Before we go further, let's assume that you already know this. What do you think is wrong with this design? If you submit this design to someone, or if someone should submit this design to you and you're to mark this design, what is the first error you point out? The what?
Opacity.
Okay. Yeah, it's too faint. Yes, this is it. So now this is supposed to be like the header text that is in design. There's something we call hierarchy. Yes, in graphic design, there's something we call hierarchy. So some information needs to be on top for us to know what is down there. This, for you to present this very well, you need to highlight this, make it a bolder text, and this is it. So I talked about this in class one of the days, where I told you how to mix fonts, that you should mix bold, regular, semi-bold, and medium, those kind of ways. That's how it's advisable that you mix fonts. So I don't use thin font for any reason. Thin font, like it's very thin, and I get to use it. I don't use it for any reason. So I would rather work with regular, sorry, type. I rather work with regular, bold, semi-bold, and medium than to think of using thin. Okay. So let's move further to the number 5 tips. Now, this I also see it mostly in designs, where people try to mix 2 different icons together. You know that we have the field icons, we have unfilled, we have outline, sorry, the outline icon. So if you're using, the main reason why I prefer to use Google.fonts, or I use material design icons, because I know that I can be able to get the same kinds of icons when designing. So for no reason should you use field and outline at the same time for something like this. So if you are using outline, ensure that all the icons you want to get, they are all outline. If you want to use the field icons, also look for icons that are similar. Now look at it. This is looking more presentable than this. So your icon style. So when you design is like the last thing. I tell people design is the last thing you need to do. The first is to gather your resources, keep them in one place. I don't know if you follow most of these YouTube designers, you see that they gather all their resources, they put it in a folder. And what they do is, if they want you to replicate it, they now grant this access for you to be able to download those their resources so that you can work with them. Now, is it that they don't know why they are gathering their resources? Because if you don't gather your resources, you might end up using any and anything you see. And there's something they used to tell us while growing up, that when you prepare very well, there's no room for failure. So if you don't prepare for design, the same way I prepare to go to work, that's the same way I prepare for any design I want to any project I want to carry out. I'll ensure that from my style guide, that's like one of the most important things I ensure that I get. That is like the first thing. Because what I do is, instead of getting to use fonts and the rest of them that the organization will not like, the first thing I do when you contact me for a project and we've accepted the price that I need to take, I'll ask for your logo. When I ask for your logo, I'll create a style guide and I'll send you the style guide. And it will also be my what's it called? Because I'll have to send you my my document for you to see and sign. So it's in that document I will tell you. It's in that document I'll tell you my deliverables, what I'm going to deliver. So style guide is part of it. I'll include it like the first week I'm going to give you style guide, which I will sit down, research, look for matching colors online, do all those things. Even if it will take me 1 week, I don't care. Like I would ensure that I get all these things settled. So when I send you this for the first 1 week, if you don't want the color, you don't want the font, from there we talk about it and I change it. So when I'm designing, I know that, because there's something I hate very well is when I give my designs to developer and someone is now asking me, what font will I use? What size of font will I use here? Or on the designs. Okay, someone on the designs. It's not like I was doing that from the start. No, I wasn't. So from the start, I can just decide to use anything. So there's a particular developer that one day met me. I was like, he sent me a message that the font size, okay, the shade of black I used for this particular screen is different from the shade of black I use in another screen, and he's using one plugin like that to get everything to run into code, and it's disturbing his code and delaying him. So after he gave me that feedback, now one thing you need to know is feedback. When they give feedback, don't take it as something bad. Feedbacks are never bad. Something you need to look and put into consideration. Sit down and think about it, then work on yourself. So from then I started preparing everything, and I'll make sure that I save it on Figma also. Okay, when I was using X, it was very easy to save it, so I just save everything. So for every screen I know that I'm just implementing, clicking on all of this. So designing takes a lot of preparation from your icons. And so if I'm using Google icons, I'm going to think, you want to be know that if you're designing, you already know the icons you need to use till the end of your designs. Because you know that if you have search, you know that you need search icon. If you know that you need to do a nav tab, you know that you still need all of this. So you prepare and keep your icons also, so that you don't get to be downloading. One thing I hate, although I've done it in this class several times, is because when I just okay, what am I going to design live on screen, and I do it. Normally I prepare for my designs, I gather all of these resources before I continue. No, it's not accepted. Some designs I see field for current screen and I see outline. No, it's not the same as reducing the opacity. Oh. Okay, so for this now, I can use all of this, but I won't use the same color for it when I'm using it on my tab, on my nav bar. So what I'm going to do, if this is the, so if this is what is clicked, what is showing presently, the other ones I'll have to change the color to gray or reduce your opacity so that they will not drag for the same attention. What we mean by field and on-field is something like this. Field and outline. This is outline. This is field. So if you want to look for a field icon like this, it will have the color inside of this and not outside of this. So you can see this one now. This is outline. So that's what I mean, and not the colors itself. Tip number 6. I know that most of you are guilty of this, that you will design button and you want to choke the button. So imagine yourself as a human being and you're wearing a clothes that is very tight. Will it even pass your neck? No, that's the same thing for button. Allow little space. It's advisable that you use auto layout to design your button so that no matter how you increase the copy in it, it will still give you the same padding and margin. We've not covered auto layout in this class, so I believe that's why I can excuse that. But even at that, ensure that your button, if I'm to do this button like this, what I will do here is to reduce this text. Reduce the text if I want it to be like this, reduce the text, or increase the rectangle I'm using. Now look at this. Is this not looking presentable? So for margin and padding, this should be at least 2 times 2 of this. So, or you can even make it equal. As far as there is space, what we need is space, breathing space, so that the button will not choke to death, even if we know that the button cannot die. Now, this is actually a UI part of a design, the UX, sorry. So most times people would want to use this asterisk to show that this is required. So instead of doing this, why not just use the normal text to write it, like something like this, optional, required, something like this, instead of using that asterisk. So I know that Google Form actually plays this to tell you that it's compulsory. Without this, you can't pass it. But you might not even need to use this asterisk. You can just include it in your code, that, or like a copy downwards. This is required when someone should skip it. Yeah, something like this. Down part of this screen, instead of putting asterisk everywhere. You're opening a form and you're seeing asterisk like in 5 different places. So just leave it. Once the person skip it, you can use messages like this is a required field to put it. Tip number 8. This one, if I am a client and you give me this, I would not accept it. So I know from the point where some people are coming from. Let's say you've thought about it, that it's very wrong to allow your users to scroll downwards very well get to be able to fill a form. So instead of this, you can use what we call step 1, step 2, step 3. So this can be only used when it's your ATM card. You know where you have CCV, whether CVV and PIN. So you know that those labels are short. If you give it a long label, it will be a long form column. It will not be nice. So, but for something like email, that you know that some people's email, I know someone that the person's email is Ogundayo Timileyi. This. I've forgotten the name, but her 3 names is there. Why? Her reason is because she wanted to submit thesis in school, and the she wanted to publish an article online, and it has to contain her 3 names since it's part of her project. So she had to use that long name to fill in her email. So imagine she trying to fill something online with that email, and you're giving her this kind of box. So if you know that you're considering the users, yes, which we need to consider at every point, instead of this, use step 1, step 2. So name, email, password should be like this. Then if it's PIN and CCV, then you can divide it. Tip number 9. Labels shouldn't have the same distance to the previous field. So what this means is, you know that you've seen some designs where this your title header and the box and the email, they'll have the same alignment. Like you want to make it the same. No. So if this is 12, this should be like 24, a bit, or 20. A bit, it should not be the same alignment. Can we multi-column for desktop designs? Okay, so now using desktop designs, if you followed initially, if I'm doing a form for a desktop screen, what I will do is I'll make this entire thing, I'll take this entire thing to the center. This, I'll bring it at the middle, and maybe make the full screen an overlay. I'll make this an overlay of the full screen. Or if I want to still design another, I want to make it finer, I can use one section for the form and use another section for image and the rest of them. So that's how I'm going to do it. Then you can see the explanation I already gave. So there should be some form of space, increase the distance. Tip number 10. Most people feel that this is actually a very fine practice. No, it's actually very fine. To be sincere, it's very fine. I saw a design from one student that used this to design what app is that to one of these are e-commerce fintech app uses this, and it's very fine, but if you look at it in the real sense, it takes longer time for me to understand that this is a form input. Like it takes longer time for me to know that okay, I'm supposed to impute something here. So it's advisable that you do this rectangular boxes instead of this, because it's even very easy to put a line indicating typing, a typing line, than to put it here. Imagine putting a line, a straight line like this, that it's for typing. We get. So this is another mistake we like to make, where we should avoid unclear messaging, like account creation field. Why are you writing it with green text, with green color? Sorry, green color. We all know that green means success, red means failure. So as a user, if I see something like this, I may not I may not, I won't bother to read what is there, because it will just in my head, when we are doing heuristic principles, we talked about it. In my head, it's already assumed that this is success. If you want to do something like this, yes, using red will make me pause to look at what's happened here. But with this, I can just it's successful, and I'll leave it. So there are some things that sometimes you feel it's fine. Yeah, most people want to do it, that it's fine. Using green color is fine, and the rest of them. Now, there's something I also need to let you know, that your PDF, sorry, PDF, damn me. Okay, I'll drop the PDF for you. But there's something you also need to know is your designs. It should it should not just be about the how fine it is. Your designs can be very simple, but yes, easy to navigate. I've been saying it from the starting of the class. It's not the fine UI, it's not the animation. All those ones that are there, it's the usability. So today I had a meeting with my boss, and he was talking about lead generation. So one thing you need to know as a UI UX designer is your designs should be able to retain customers. So they are not just employing you for the fact that you make fine designs. Is it usable? I used to ask this question in every class. Is your design, can I use your design? The colors and every other things, the beauty of it is good. But some people in the process of making something very fine neglect the most important part, which is something like this. Now you're designing like this. Your this is already showing successful in my head. It is fine, oh, because red, if you look, they say red is danger. So putting red is like spiritual people actually. Putting red, I cannot go down in Jesus' name. Madam, are you going up? That kind of situation. So let's just take note of all of this. So when you're designing, you I can dwell on a design, just my hero page. To be sincere, I can dwell on my hero page for like 3-4 hours just to get it right. And now when getting it right, and you know that it's easier to look at a smaller screen, like smaller, it's easier to make corrections one by one than to design all and start staying for a longer period of time and later realize that this is wrong. So before I finish any page, I will look at it. I'll be asking myself the page, and I'm done with it. I'll now start asking myself different questions. What if I am a user and I want to go back? Is there any way for me to go back? If I check there's no back button, I include back. I'll start looking at it again. What if I'm a user and I forget my password? So that's how I design. And I forget my password. What will I do at this point? I'll put forgot password. I'll still sit down and be looking at that design again. And I'll say, what if I'm a user and okay, let's say I mistakenly come to log in when I've not registered on this screen. And I look at it, if I don't have it, that's where I will put already a new user. Are you a new user? Sign up. Like, I make sure I put all of those things. I think of the possible questions that users will ask. After thinking of them, I look at it very well before I move to the next screen. So that's how I design. So one thing you also need to know is when you're giving your deadline or for you to view your design, there's something I do. If this design is supposed to take me 2 weeks, I'm going to add extra 1 week to it. So there was a project myself and okay, there was a project I worked on. I think Ellen is aware. That project normally was supposed to take me a month, but I took extra 2 weeks, and I ensured that I negotiated that time with the person. So when he was surprised that I told him I was going to finish in 6 weeks, and I finished that project in 1 month, in 4 weeks, and he was surprised. How come? I decided to choose a longer period of time because I know that that's I'll be comfortable. I will look at all the screens. So if I'm taking 4 hours on just one sign up page, I know what I'm doing. So when I'm giving it to you, the corrections you will make might not be from the UX part of it, might not be that it's not usable. That's why you're making this correction. It would be like, oh, it's color. Maybe one of the copy I used is not matching to your organizational goal. You want to give me a different copy. Those yes. So I don't believe in rushing. I tell students that I prefer to put out, and this is, if you look at it, it's actually very right. When I was growing up, my mom would tell me something that if you're writing any exam, she will always tell me, Buma, if you know that you know two questions out of four, write start with the question you know very well, the one that you can give them your all. When I was in school, I never failed, not because I knew all the answers. If I am answering one question, I'll answer it in the way that you will give me my 1 mark. So I still carry that kind of mentality to my designs because I know that when I was marking junior YF, once I see that your first 10 is correct, I might not be reading the rest to know. I just assume, oh, this person is good. But if I mark the first 10 and you failed all, going further from 11, I will be very serious with looking at it because I will just assume that you will still fail this one. So, in essence, what am I saying? You can take time to design just one thing, but get it right. Like, this is not a good practice. So never use green to show any error message, or try to use the color you're working with, your organizational color. Okay. So this is another thing. Avoid slightly different roundness close to each other. This should be like let's say this should be like 5 and this should be like 10. So if you want to do something like this, give them the same corner radius. So the same way I do for my fonts, for my input, text input box. If I'm using 10 for my button, I make all of them 10. If I'm using 5, I make all of them 5. For similarity, let it be similar. So this is another thing. Avoid to small click areas. Something like this. This is very small. If you want to do something like, let it be big. Even on desktop, you should make it big. Not too much big. Oh. We have what we call middle. So you cannot go and use 48 on this because you want to make it big. No. This should be around 10. Yeah, 10. So you can make it 12 or 14 because it's easier to use. Now, this is another thing. I don't do this at all. I've seen people. There's one that you would see most people will use. Let's say the length of their text inbox should be like the length. Let's say is it the length or the height? Let's say they are using 150. Now their button will be around 100. Do not centralize the button. So this, if you're using this, you should use this all through. But I don't like rounded because for me, I feel rounded looks more. There's a way it looks on my screen, so I don't. I prefer to use a slightly rounded corner radius like 10. I don't even have another size that I used to use. I use 10 or 2. So this is how you can fix this. Then this is another thing. The more font size, the longer it takes to process it. This is 16, this is 12, this is 32. So why not just make it 16, 16? Like everything should just be uniform. So I don't get to look and look. So you can just decide to reduce the transparency of this. So before, okay, no question. So this smaller label fonts will zoom your screen on mobile. So this is how you see that this is very big. If you're using a mobile, it will make your screen very big. So it all boils down to using appropriate fonts. So another tip I need to tell you now is we all have Android phones or we all use Android phones. It's advisable that if you're designing for a mobile app, download Figma Miro. Download Figma Miro. Look at your screen on your main phone and see how it's looking. Because most times the play from there might not help you. But if you can look at your screen on your Android phone, you will know when the text is too big. You will know when it's too small. One thing you need to know, flexibility. If you decide that okay, you want to use 16 and you look at it on your screen and it's not fine, you can reduce it to 14. Nobody will kill you, or nobody will tell you it's not done that way. There's no best font size to it. The only thing is people will give you advice based on what they've used over time. So that's why you see it's advisable you use between 16 to 18 of your font. Yes, you have that in mind. But if you look at it from your phone, it's not looking fine, change it. You can invent your own thing. So this is another thing. Even the most common icons can be misunderstood using this law. So you should add label sometimes. Because these days, once you see love icon, okay, yeah, I know that it's favorite, but you know that we have different types of love icons. Some people might just decide to put the one that has line inside. So your copies, use labels so that people that are not techies can also understand. The old people can understand it. So this is another thing. I've said it before in this class. Your users they read from left to right. So put the most important things on the left side of your screen. Now, for this particular copy, if you look at it, are you sure you want to retweet this tip so more people can see it? So if it's a mistake, I used to click it. I know that the cancel is the first thing I need to do. Then when I look at cancel, I see it. I come to retweet. So I read from left to right, not from right to left. Okay. So you need to, it's better for the main action to be at the bottom than to be on top. So I don't know, you understand this part? Because I've said something about thumb. Your thumb, there's a way your thumb go when you want to click. So it's better to put everything between your thumb, rule of thumb. So this, yeah, you should have not seen this in this class. I've not seen it, to be sincere. But I know that some people will be tempted to use this as next or as action button. because it's fine. So instead of this, why not use this? Okay, so if you have a dashboard, not really a dashboard, the way you design for a web app is different from the way you design for a website. So if you have a web app that contains next, like it's like a dashboard that you have payments, successful, not successful, and the rest of them, you can use this once you have back next or back. But using this as an action call to action button is not acceptable at all. Also, for your link, make sure that your link does not look like our regular text. Now, how if I'm to do this and I want to make this a link, I might decide to reduce it, use underline, then change the color. Yeah. So this is it. Let people be able to know that that is a link and not just a normal text. So there's a site. Okay, I can't show you the site actually, but there's a site I started using, one LMS site. Once you click on it, you would not even know that. Once you log in, they'll show you advert. You will not even know that you need to click on, let's say, that thing to go, because it's not looking like a link. It's sitting in the middle of just the way these people is. Now that's where I'm supposed to click to go. So when the developer that I wanted, because I'm supposed to build something like I'm supposed to design something similar like that. So they had to give me the LMS. It's not in Nigeria. They had to give me the login details of someone to be able to navigate and see how their whole process, because they wanted something similar. So I said, no problem, let me do that. So when I logged in and I told the developer, he wanted to check the dashboard. So I was like, I was busy and I told him that he should help me because he's someone that I'm very close to. And I told him to help me. The guy stood there for like 30 minutes because I was in another meeting, and he was looking for how to log in the dashboard. And uh, the guy was like, Boma, I cannot log in. I've not seen it. I was like, it should be there now. You've logged in now. You logged in successfully. It's just for you to go to the dashboard. So when I came, I started reading the text one after the other. That was when I saw that the click me was somewhere here. It was to go to the dashboard of your this thing. Click here. So the text was like around this people part, and it wasn't underlined or anything. So how you will know is when you go there, when you over, it will not change the mouse. That was how I was able to I went there and I overed and it changed. I just had to click on it and it took me there. So it was like, why did you take time? Well, like, why didn't you take time looking for it? And I'm like, first, I'm a UI UX designer, so first I read copies a lot. So I don't just keep anything I see. I read them a lot. One thing that is going to help you as intermediate, as designers, is for every website you go to, don't just go because you want to go. I don't just use Jumia because I want to use Jumia. I don't just use Kuda because I want to use Kuda. I learned something from it. So because I've seen something like that on something I read before, I had to quickly look down, and that was how I was able to trace it immediately. So tip number 22, capitalize button. Yes, I can beat my chest that I've seen this one in class before. Like, I've seen it. Someone did a button and used capital letters. It takes longer time to read. So advisable use small letter. So if I don't want to use small letter or to, what I do is I can do the create, I can do the account, another capital letter so that you can look at it very well. Okay, so this has to do with alignment, overlap. Thing is going to enter so there should be some kind of space around the safe area. So avoid drop downs if you have only 3 to 5 options. States, the other is state and capital. You use drop downs. But if it's something like male and female, you just use radio button. Okay, harvest, your hand is up. Butera, you can speak.
Good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
There's something I didn't understand on the slide uh, you've moved up. Uh,
This.
no, another one, another one up. Yeah, there.
Okay. So,
No,
like I was, is
uh, okay. Yeah, it's there. I was confused about that word. I mean, the next one on this one where it was saying the title case. Yeah, to best to
okay.
go with title case.
Okay,
Don't
so
understand it.
what I'm saying that it's wrong to use capital letters to write your copies for buttons. Your button text. I see most people want to write in capital letter, like your call to action. It's advisable that you use a lowercase instead of a capital letter, because capital letters take longer time to read, and it's already in our head that you use capital letters mostly for header text, like for headers, something that's an heading. That's when you use capital letter for. So this your call to action button is not a heading, so you need to use small letter to write it. And I was saying that most times if I see that there are some things that I will need to do, like login, I would use the N in capital letter and the L in small letter. Like if I'm separating it. Signing, same thing. So instead of using complete full capital letter, I just use C. Let's say I'll use C and I use A. So I was talking about drop downs. So if you have 3 to 5 options, it's advisable that you use a radio button instead. Radio buttons instead of a dark drop down. So that's why if you notice for male and females mostly use radio buttons instead of drop down. Drop down you can use it for states, you can use it for countries. We know that those ones are longer. So tip number so this is same thing as this. So instead of, if you don't want to use radio button, you can list it up like this as a tab. Tip number 26. You should avoid field that does not give any hints to your users. So something like this for zip code, we know that it should be like 10, it should be like 6. So you keep them informed, let them know how many they are typing. So this toggle button, I agree to these terms. It shouldn't be used for an action that has a button already. So it's something like dark mode and the rest of them that you need to take immediate effect. So if you want to do this, you should use the normal ticking box that you can tick or uncheck, check and uncheck. So if you want to use this is for immediate confirmation. So once I use this, you should confirm it straight up. You can use it for dark mode and light mode and the rest of them. Avoid this if they are close to each other. Like I said, use ticking instead. Check boxes. Now, this is what I've been battling with in this class. This particular thing. Different colors clashing together. Alignment. Colors, alignment. Someone will align to the left, will align this to the left, align this. This is causing chaos. This is making me as someone that is marking, is making me not to think well. So please, before any design, think of your colors. Look at it. How is it going to match? Look at your alignment. Even if it means for you to check your what's it called? Even if it means using your ruler per time to divide your screens, please. May I not see designs that you align this one almost to the screen. It wants to go out of the screen, and the next one is coming this way. Even the buttons are not together, the color, everything. So now, if you look at this, they are still saying the same thing. This and this is the same thing they are saying. But you see, as this is very simple and sweet. So this is where I've noticed the other ones we have issues with it, but if you assume that that's UX, but you see this part where someone would design and you use several colors to decorate the designs, or you so just simplicity for me. The simpler, the better. I don't think I've designed anything that I use curved. That I use curve. I'm not saying it's bad, but for me, instead of me to do it and I don't do it right, I prefer to follow the contemporary way, the normal way we know, and make it fine. So, so this is another thing. Don't align the checkbox to the center of the entire block. Center, no. Align it to the top or the bottom. So I know that when you want, most times you'll be tempted to use the middle alignment tab to want to align this to the center. So it should be top or bottom, because you see that this is very large. This text is very big and it's not looking very well. So if you want to align this to the top or the bottom. So if you're aligning this to the top, all should be to the top. If you're aligning it to the bottom, all should be to the bottom. You get the concept. Avoid having the weights, same weight. So this should be like, this is medium, this something like this. Now this should only be when I've actually typed. So what I do is once I create screen, I make provision for the typed and the untyped, the one I've not typed. So I can just decide to use this one, then create another screen where I show the full. So that's actually for my prototype mostly, not for this. Yeah, Timley. Actually had to check several other PDFs, and I know that one thing we talk about being about something being real. If one, two, three, four, 5 persons are saying the same thing, then like normally the same majority carries the vote. So yeah, I've checked, looked at good designs. I've checked Kuda. Kuda is one bank that is encouraging me when I see good UI. I think of Kuda. So when you check all these good sites that have good designs, and you see that they are following most of these principles, then you need to know that it's good. Okay, so let's move. Now, this is a question they're asking you. What if the user is unsure what they have written? I know some people that want to do this. To solve this, now the thing is, to solve most design problem is just something simple. Why not just put an eye icon where they can uncheck, close, and open, so that they will know if. And you know one thing, anything you put here and give to the developers these days, that is what they will do. Developers don't care again because they have plenty things they are doing. You not expect them to now start thinking of UX when they have, when they have a lot of things to do, a lot of code to write. So while they are trying to fix bugs in code, you should be trying to make the thing easy for them. If you don't put this, seriously, some developers will not bother. I don't know if you've worked with those ones that um oh exactly, like it's just so annoying. Which site did I use today? I think I used one site that it's like that. MailChimp, uh webmail, webmail. They do it a lot. So once you put your password, you can't uncheck it. You can't check or uncheck to know if it's correct. So what you need to do is you need to write down the password somewhere, copy and paste. Because if you start using, like me now that I'm still trying to get used to my laptop keyboards, if I sometimes I will be looking for art. You will see art here, whereas that's not art. So there's an art symbol close to my P, but that's not actually my art. My art is in number two, where I have two. So imagine I want to type art for a password, and I'm trying to use this one, and you don't allow me to check to see if it's correct or not. I will just be receiving incorrect password, without even knowing where the error is or where the fault is. So do not design and forget this. Please, if you forget it, that's why. When I was growing up, I did this a lot. Like when I go to make my hair with my mom or anybody, as you make one, I will touch it. I'll use mirror to look at it. If it's fine, if it's not fine, you lose it before we continue. Let it not be like you've done plenty before you now notice it too. So once you plate one, I'll use my phone and I'll look, or I'll use mirror. I'll tell my mom, give me mirror, and I'll look. Till date, I still do that thing. So that's the same way I design. I don't know. I just carry that lifestyle because designing is a lifestyle. Actually, it's not a skill. It's a lifestyle. I just carry that lifestyle to my design. If I design 3, 4 pages, I go back to one. I don't know if you noticed the day I was designing that app, I was going to view it continuously. It's not because I want to be checking it, I want to be seeing it. It's because I'm used to that pattern. I need to check to confirm if there's any error before I move to the next one, so that I don't. Oh, I not change it to about it like that too. Okay, so avoid showing required password character after clicking the button. So if I click the button, I should not see this again. Rather, they should guide you. I know most website that does this. They'll just be then telling you password needs to include this. So I know some sites that once you want to type password, they'll tell you, they'll put a copy down that it's advisable that your password should be more than 8 characters. It should include special characters. It should also include numbers. So once you put this, they tick it. Once you put this, they tick it. Once you put this, they tick it. So I already know I have a standard password that can work on any of these platforms. So what I do is I use arts first. Art is always 30 in my password. I just use arts first before I start, and I know that each site would require one capitalized letter. So I already include that. Then I know that I must put numbers. So you should guide them instead of always once they click create account, they are saying your password needs to do this, your password needs to do that. Tell them what they've included and what they've not included. So this is like guiding your users, following number one heuristic principle. Keep them informed at every point in time. Ah, you see this? That's why I try to use between 60 to 100. I don't make sure that my button is more than that. I cannot use 150. I don't, even if I'm designing for web or mobile. If I'm designing for mobile itself is 60. Because how did I come to settle at 60? Because I use my phone to view. most times if you use 100, it might be showing small on your design, but once you view it, you will see that it's very big. So I tried to view at every point, and I decided in my head that okay, if I'm designing for mobile, I'm using 60 pixel as the height. So is this finer? Yes, this is finer than this. This is too big. So this is so you should always put this is the information. Solve problem before you blink. Now this is the action. Tell me more. So if you're I would want to know more about this. So sometimes you need to put arrows to reinforce. I've not done this, so I would not tell how valid. I've not seen this principle elsewhere, so I'm not just going to emphasize on this. Same color. Okay, so now this is it. They told us here that we should always include arrows as reinforcement. And now here they are saying that there are some colors that these arrows does not work. And this is an example when you're using gradients. This is a gradient. So it's not going to work. So if you're using just one type of color for your button, you should put an arrow showing reinforcement. But if you're using like a gradient like this, to not include this. Okay. So long lists can be pretty tiring to scroll. Something like this, all the countries. So it's advisable that you should always add a filter box to what you're doing. So people should be able to type. So as they are typing, you should be suggesting the name. So if I type G, remove all the other ones that are not G. So if I have Indian, Indian should not be there once I type G. So this is understood. Okay, no, you cannot even save it. That's the keyboard. Except I would have to change my keyboard, like buy a new keyboard and replace it. Some side needs this such thing. It's tiring. Yeah, if you notice, it's mostly Nigerian sites that you will see most of these. That you will just be scrolling your especially for forms. Like forms, you will now be going. Imagine you know that in 36 states, River State is normally till at the bottom part of the because of how they arrange it. So imagine someone that wants to look for River State, they'll have to scroll till I get to River State. So we should consider most things. So when we are designing, we need to make life easy for our people. Are they doing your hand was up?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, yeah, it was as regards one of the points that one of the tips that the person said.
Okay.
So I think I have like a contrary opinion,
Opinion.
something like that. Okay,
Okay.
so there's the one before this one, maybe 30 something that say we should put an icon and a word together.
Yeah.
I think I've also seen somewhere one of all those UI design tips that you should not put, or in fact, even I think Miss Believe has corrected my work that I should not use text and icon together. I think for our last project, the one on iPhone, I did the mobile interface. So I put like cancel. So I put back and maybe a back arrow or something like that. But she was like, I should choose either of them. So I don't know, is this still valid? Like
Okay, so
putting
if I understand very well, you used cancel. You typed cancel on somewhere here, and you put
and then I put
add.
back, no, back arrow, like
Back.
this arrow. If you
No,
twist it the
now.
other.
No. That's actually not a good practice. Now, if you read this very well, it's talking about reinforcement. when you need to learn more. So you can't put cancel and put a back arrow.
I mean,
Back
the
arrow
back
is
arrow
like
came first before the cancel, like the
no,
first
no,
back
no,
arrow.
no, no.
But that's the way
First,
iPhone's
another
interface
way,
is like.
iPhone interface that will put
Yes,
back and put
they'll
cancel.
put cancel. Yes.
No, I don't think I've experienced something like that. Okay, so I like checking something before time. So let me try to delete, or let me try to edit something. So give me some minutes. You cannot, I don't know, maybe for other iPhones, but there's nothing like back. It will always be a coffee. Don't delete or read.
All right,
So
man. Okay, but I just want to just confirm because I know I've
okay.
seen it
No,
somewhere
this
that just
is
not put
okay. This
icons
is
and
just
text
like
together.
reinforcement. Like this is now is supposed to lead us to another place to learn more. So that's the advice is given here. But for me, I don't know. I like I said, I've never seen this somewhere, so I don't know how valid this point is to always include another circle and an icon. So that's why I say you also need to vet this.
All right, man. Thank you.
eh. So we might not be able to finish all the tips because we have so many. So we'll stop at 40. No, we'll stop at 45. Then I'll share the book. Then you read and ensure that you know most of these things, and so that our designs would what we want is designs that have you wondered why I still keep wondering about this? Is it Naira Land or one of these news platform that is not fine, but people are still using it. It's not like it's fine, but people are still using it. The thing is, your 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 device, your screens or your designs should be usable. Your product should be usable. So I've come to realize that in the olden days, if you know when that came up, it was before. You can do anything, but now everybody is wise. Everybody is going techie. Just like present before, going to the supermarket to stand a long queue to pay money was never a problem because people would do it. But now time is now very expensive. Like time. The time as I'm like this presently, you cannot just call me at any time and tell me you want to see me. No. So you need to check with me days before so that I need to put it in my schedule. So the same way I get angry if I go to any supermarket to buy something and the queues I need to stand because everybody is now going the tech is taking everywhere. So now imagine people are not thinking of self checkout. So instead of going there, I can just quickly pay for goods with my phone and I leave. Pay with my card and I leave. But that's not yet in Nigeria. But we are working some. It will soon come into Nigeria where you don't need to stand long queue. If you've used Market Square at Ada George Road in Port Harcourt, you will understand what I'm saying. You can stand for 30 minutes just to pay for your goods because people are always going there. So you just need to make everything simple now for people. Because seeing people outside in Lagos, here, I don't even see tech guys outside. If for you to bring any tech guy outside, know that you are paying him a lot for him to come out. So just make things think of things that will make life easy, like very easy. Yes, Naira Land. It solves like okay. So my younger sister messaged me one day, and she said she won an iPhone on Instagram. I thought about this, and I'm like, uh, this is what's it called? I was like, this looks like scam to me. But when she sent me, so I then told her something. I was like, I went online and I checked the name of I checked the complex, and I noticed that it's a complex that is active in Enugu. So I was like, so I told her that, okay, tell this person that you're not in Enugu if you can send somebody. And the reply was, sure, you can send anybody to come and pick it. Anybody. I say, oh, I was not thinking, are you sure this is scam? This is not scam. So I was talking to one of my friends and was like, Woman, check on Naira Land. So I said, okay, no problem. So immediately he said I should send him the address. I sent it to him. He copied it, pasted it on Naira Land. And I started seeing comments. Like, he then sent me the screenshot. I had to go to Naira Land myself to check. They started seeing comment of people that had similar issues with it. Now you see that has solved my problem very well. Imagine I would have looked for someone in Enugu, send the person, I might also be risking the person's life at the same time, but Nairaland helped me to solve it. The interface might not be very fine, but they are doing like, yes. But then there's something we also need to consider in this life is we have competitors. They might be thinking, they have money now, they should look for a good UI UX designer that will make their UI fine. Because if one person in Nigeria that have studied them very well to decide to become their competitors with fine UI, people will actually switch to start using those other people. But for you to do that, it will be you will take a lot of time as a UI UX designer to be able to get that done. Okay, so avoid empty space with spinners. So all content should have a skeleton. So for instance, now instead of loading this like this, just putting loader like this, it should be something like this that we know that it's loading, but it's taking time. So it will just be like it will be filling in one after the other. Picture will fill in, header will fill in, text will fill in, button will fill in. So you should have a skeleton screen. Avoid multi-column checklists all over. So you should arrange it line by line instead of keeping it like the same thing as we talked about font, about putting your text box to be short. So tip number 40, side scrolling table on mobiles are mostly bad. So instead of this, you should make it like this. So yeah, if it's for websites, this is actually a good practice. But if it's for mobile, it's advisable that you can make it a less column or a cell group by group like this. But if it's a very long table, you can do it like this, but let everything be visible. So you need to include like a slider button here so people can know that they have to smooth slide to the next part of it. Ah, ah. Avoid centered content in table. Also avoid left aligned numbers. So if this is if this is not a number, you should align it to the left. But if it's a number, it should be to the right. So this is how you should align. I know that most persons are feeling this. They don't we've all flawed in using this kind of thing. So sometimes when I want to design for a web app, I can just decide to align this to the center. But mere looking at this, you just know that this is not fine. This is finer than this. So if you're aligning any number value, align it to the right, align this to the left. So this will solve the alignment problem for table. Avoid putting emphasis on the label in cells. Yes. So I don't do this at all. So the labels should not be emphasized on. So what should be emphasized on is the what is following them, the actual data. Okay, tip number 24, center field and label in cells. Like centralizing this like this, it will cause chaos to the eye. So it's advisable that you always align them to the left part of your screen. So this is actually a best pattern. So it should be like F. Like I said, users they read from left to right and not otherwise. So the last tip we'll be talking about here is avoid an empty screen. it's advisable that you just guide your users, no reservation. Give them a copy to do, and give them a copy to tell them why there is no reservation. Then give them a guide that will take them from there to reserve another spot. So we still have more to go, but this would be for you. You should read it to complete it. So any questions so far on what we've talked about? We have 4 minutes to end this class. Okay, so David, you can unmute and talk. Sorry, David, I mistakenly muted you back. So unmute.
Okay. Good evening, Boma.
Yeah, good evening.
Sorry, I'm being the first to ask. I'm supposed to ask last because it's not really relating to the class. Sorry.
Oh, is it about promotion?
Yes, actually.
Okay, if it's about promotion, let's take this outside the class. This IK addressed that, but I believe we came late.
Okay, but mine is actually I think I briefed him because my system crashed. That was
Okay,
why I didn't do, and
let's take
immediately
it
I
after
repaired
the
it, I
class.
submitted
Yeah.
it.
Oh yeah, let's
Okay.
take it after this class. Yes. So
Okay,
is there any other question? If you have any question, you can talk.
Okay. Good evening, Boma.
Hello.
Yeah, hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. Good evening. Yeah.
Okay, good
So
evening.
actually, it's not a question, but I don't know. I just want to throw a suggestion to the class. I kind of feel we are not really communicating well on Slack, like having peer-to-peer session within ourselves. I don't know. I might be wrong on that, but I kind of feel we don't really have this free-flowing connection on the Slack channel. So I want to ask, is it possible? Yeah, because sometimes
Peer-to-peer
sometimes
conversations,
yeah,
unlike the normal class.
yes, I'm going to the random channel, general channel. It's kind of rowdy because we might not be able to fix our niche to where we have to concentrate on. So I don't know, is it possible we have a special channel that we are free to communicate? Because sometimes if you post anything on the Slack channel, IK is out there to, ask us not to do this and that. So is it possible we have like a special channel that we can, even if you are doing random design that is outside the class, we can post it there and try to be free and just communicate and network within ourselves properly.
Okay, no problem. So I understand what you're saying. So I would get back to you if there's an update on that. You see it on the Slack group. But I think you can communicate on the intermediate UI UX group. You can you can ask questions, communicate there, but you don't need to take it to the other general group. So, but I would also like that we have more peer-to-peer conversations, because each learners we have different method of learning. Some people learn better when they ask questions and their fellow students are answering, and the rest of them. So if you have any questions, you do this, feel free to always ask on the Slack group. And for you students, for learners, you don't necessarily need to wait for the trainers and the mentors to come and respond to those questions. If it's something reply there, turn it into a conversation. If you see something, it can be a design issue. You can see a design on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, that you feel that something is wrong with it. Bring the design to the intermediate UI UX group, post it there, tell them this is what you feel. People will talk, give their opinions. I am this kind of person that I believe in like learning. When that's why, if you notice, if I see something that it's not right, I'm not comfortable with it, I ask others, so that we all know, get to hear from opinions. From there I learn better in discussions, and than to be this must be this way. I'm a very flexible kind of person. So if you see designs, you should not also make that group boring. You see designs from anywhere, you're using your app and you see something is not right, screenshot, bring it there, turn it into a conversation. People will learn. I know that once you turn into a conversation, there's some people that don't know it, but they want to, because of your question, go and research on it. By that, you're teaching someone that is a novice or that doesn't know about this something new. So I think you can do it on that intermediate group, but don't take it UI UX, don't take it outside. If you take it outside, then that's when you're following rules. So we are ending the class now. So is there any other question? Okay, so thank you for attending today's class. So I'm going to send the PDF to the group chat. We stopped at 45. So you should read from 46 till the end. And who knows, the next class, you might have to summarize it before we continue. Telling me what you learned before you continue. So we have so many tips, so many. And if we can use 6 to 7, 8 of these tips every day to make our designs will be better. Believe me, it will.